We are live today for yet another exciting discussion, which we are hosting under our virtual panel discussions called as Eventful Bytes. I'm so excited to host the second session, which is on the subject of communities. So you can understand when we are running the second session, it was actually high in demand from our audience. And then, of course, with an amazing set of speakers who I have on my today's virtual panel discussion. As the topic rightly says, that growth drivers for communities. What are going to be what exactly are the growth drivers for the communities? And then and again, with our panelists today, we'll be covering a lot of insights because they all are running and being a part of different communities in their own individual or at organizational aspect. It's going to be very interesting. Before I jump and introduce all my panelists, this is Shika. I'm head of marketing at Geo Platforms, and this event is brought to you by JioEvents, and we are conducting today's virtual panel discussion on JioEvents. So yes, as I said, that this event is the second in series, and in our first session on the same subject, we had an amazing conversations with our earlier panelists as well. And there was one theme which came out. It was like that whoever is managing a community, they are just an entertainer for all the community members. They just have to make sure that all the members are always engaged, they're always on their toes, and they are having something or the new coming up to them every now and then. So let's see what today's panelists they have to say about that. So I'll start with Chris. So Chris, over to you if you can introduce yourself and of course all the amazing things which are happening at G2.
Great. Well, thanks for that, Chica. Quick introduction of myself. My name is Chris Farine. I'm based in Singapore, and I'm helping G2 grow across the Asia-Pacific region. For those of you not familiar with G2, we're the world's largest B2B tech review platform. So think TripAdvisor, but for software. And when it comes into community, our community is about 2 million strong. These are people that are looking to buy software. And we have some really interesting insights when it comes to community, both from our size, but also how people are using the community, because you don't buy software every day. You're one of those that you come in maybe a couple of times a year, but the strength of that community really helps people to make better software buying decisions. So look forward to the panel today. Look forward to digging deeper into communities and learning from everybody on the panel as well.
Thank you, Chris, joining us all the way from Singapore. We know it's quite an evening time over there. So, yep, over to you, Joe. An early morning for you. We would really like to hear about you and then, all about your involvement with the communities.
Yes, well, pleasure to meet all of you today. Happy to be here. My name is Joe Aurelia. I am the SVP of Operations at a cybersecurity startup called Sai.Muddana. I'm coming over here from the United States, particularly in North Carolina, so about 5 in the morning here, but it's going to be a great day. For us, we are a cybersecurity company focusing on cleft defense and cyber fusion, essentially combining several aspects of the threat landscape into a single pane of glass to better operationalize teams and increase their situation awareness. For me, my interest in community started over the last few years, trying to get back into the swing of things and have conversations. And I found just a world of options online and in person. And I found just a tremendous number of benefits in using and sharing those communities. And happy to have that conversation with all of you today.
Thank you, Joe. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you, Shikha. Happy to be here. I'm Neha Kanabar. I'm thrilled to be here as the founder of the world's largest community of mothers. We have our community across platforms on Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. And I'm also a Facebook certified community manager. I've been to the Germany office to get trained on community management. And today I'm here in the capacity of a community of a mothers platform. And as you all know, that mothers often find solace and support in connecting with like-minded individuals who understand the challenges and joys of motherhood. So I'm here for the same cause. I'm a mother of twin boys, an engineer and a MBA, and an alumni of IIM Bangalore. Happy to be here.
Thank you, Neha. This reminds me of one of the things which our other panelists shared in our previous panel. So we had the community. You can say the person who had started First Moms Club. So I was asking her that is by purpose you have kept that no dads cannot have the entry into your community? So she was like, yes, Shika, there is no entry for the dads. And then if any father or any dad, they would really like to start a community, please, the world is all theirs, but this place is only for
I
the
think
mothers.
I think I've I think I've been asked this question many times as well, but we have done something about it. My husband now has started a community with the famous actor Karan Mehra. That's called Uni Dad, Universe of Dads. So we are Uni Mo and they're Uni Dad. So there is a space for daddies also.
That's nice. Okay, so at least they can like, oh, okay, there is some place where we can go fret, we can at least share our frustrations as well. Okay, thank you, Naya. Over to you, Avantika.
Hi everyone. Thank you, Shika, for having me here. And it's such a pleasure to be with all of you today, especially Neha. I think we all, both of us, and in fact, First Moms Club, Ruchita, we began our journey for community building at the same time. It's just been incredible to work in the mom space. Currently, I am working with Baby Chakra and I am looking at the community, the good community part of Baby Chakra at the Good Glam Group. I have been adding partnerships and building communities for brands and platforms. I think for the longest time, but I started off as an ex-journalist. I was a journalist before I was doing content, and then I became a mother. And you know what happens when you become a mother? You have to currently suddenly think of your career choices and what is the best way for you to adapt to the new changed life. And I found solace in writing blogs and about my own motherhood experiences. And that's how my first experience about community began. And that's when the Asian Parent Singapore, contacted me to head community and strategy for them for Singapore and Philippines and India. So yeah, that's how I ventured into community. I've worked with I think the biggest platforms in the community space, where first is with the Asian Parent, then Momspresso, and now Baby Chakra. And I've also, since heading brands and partnerships, I also give solutions to brands on how to make their communities engaging. I'm also an influence and parenting coach, so I myself talk a lot about community building and how to stay authentic and real with your consumers. And yeah, it's just the journey has been really, transformational. I would use the word, and really, really, really interesting.
Thank you, Avantika. To be honest, it feels so overwhelming and it feels so nice with you could say the today's set of panelists, because of course each one of you is coming from a different niche of community. And I'm sure we are going to have a lot of insights. But there is one question which has been repeatedly asked by my audience about the branding and the partnership part, which I'm of course going to come at a later.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, over to you, Om.
Thank you so much, Shika, for having me. My name is Omas Nani. I lead Community for Growth School. Growth School is an edtech platform where we partner with professionals in top companies to create high impact cohort based courses. The basic idea stands like you want to, let's say, become a developer at Facebook. Why not learn from someone who's already a developer at Facebook? So that is how our story goes forward. It's been good 2 years now here. I started with building communities for artists, budding artists, to do open mics, trying to provide them gigs. What was also part of a lot of international sporting events like Pro Kabaddi, International World Cup of Kabaddi, and more sort of that. Because I myself am an athlete at core. And then now, when COVID was on our due, we moved everything to online, and then I transitioned to an online community role, and I think it's been a fantastic journey so far.
Okay, thank you. Om. And as I was saying that with the kind of mix of panelists who we have on today's discussion, one of the key thing which is going to be very interesting to unravel with each one of you is what are the key drivers for your community? Because of course, you all are playing in a very different set of segment, and then of course your target segment is totally different. For some of you, it's totally enterprise. For some of you, it's individuals, but again individuals as well coming from a different place altogether. So why don't we start with you, Chris? That what are the key drivers when you are deciding probably the objectives and goals at G2?
Yeah, for us, it's very unique because we have a very large community, and it's a community that's very active when there's a need to buy software. But you don't buy software every day. You might buy software once a year, twice a year. So for us, it's very important, I think, in many ways, to remind the community that we're there, we're a resource for them. Making sure that when they do need to make that software purchase, they remember to come to G2, but they know the resources that they have there, especially that community. people that have already purchased that software, whether it's reading the reviews or whether it's having discussions with folks that have expertise in buying that particular piece of software, really understanding from the community. I think in many ways we look at ourselves as a knowledge community. It's not highly interactive. You're not looking at tons of engagement, but it's there when you need it. You know, buying software is not easy. It can be really expensive. We've probably all gone through it before. And you want some help. You want to know people that have done it already. And in that time of need, the community is incredibly valuable for you. But again, it's not the community that you're interacting with every day. I'm on a political group with some, it's actually from my university and school, that you'll have 30, 40 messages a day, and you're only there because of the engagement. It can be pretty crazy engagement in some cases, whereas I think G2 is the opposite. It's you're there once a year, but you're there when you really need it, and you really need that insight because you're making pretty expensive decisions. So for us, it's making sure people are reminded of the value, knowing that it's a resource that they can tap into, and knowing how they can use the tools on the community, especially reaching those people that have the expertise. You know, people that look like you. It could be, hey, I'm a mid-market retailer in India looking for marketing automation. I want to find someone just like me that's been through that experience that can really help me understand their process, what vendors do they look at, what was important to them, and ultimately the success or potentially lack of success that they saw with a particular type of software. So it's very unique. It's a big community, but almost a community of need. It's like you need it when you're looking to buy software, but it's not an everyday community, which again creates some challenges in how you engage with that community and how do you create again that remembering that it's there because you're not using it every day.
Exactly. I think that point came to my mind because if it's, of course, a need basis, and then you are just going there because you don't buy your MarTech every day, right? So it's once in a year, or sometimes because if you're in a longer contract, so probably once in a 2 years, or maybe once in a 3 years, when you are actually trying or planning to change the vendor depending on the technology changes which has come into that particular domain. So yeah, I think I believe if this is also one of the driver, but I believe that is also becoming like a challenge for you at G2 as well. That how to make sure that the brand recall is always there, and then you are at the top of the mind of the customer when they are doing the research. Yeah, well said. Okay.
Brand recall is number one.
Yes.
Some people use G2 and they don't know they used it because they came through Google and
Yes.
got great value, but they maybe didn't remember they're there. So you're 100%. That's our biggest challenge.
Yeah. Okay. Now shifting the space from an enterprise segment to you, Neha. That I mean, now you're managing the community. So when you are designing or creating the entire engagement for your members, so what are the key things which you keep into your mind that which will make sure that it is always on the you can say high on the curve with respect to driving the people either through joining or also making sure that they are engaged through your community. I do remember that you do organize a lot of in-person events as well. So how do you make sure that you are bang on to that particular objective?
Okay, thank you for the question, Shikha. Basically, I think it's a very relevant question when we talk about key drivers for a community. And as Chris spoke from an enterprisal point of view, more or less, of course, there's overlap in all the key drivers, but then you can also customize it as per your community's mission, vision, your statement. So, for me, as a community founder of a mothers community, which has more than 500,000 mothers constantly chattering on our platform, I think first thing what we focus on is about creating a sense of belongingness, Shikha. Because I personally feel that if you like when Chris was talking about it, that it's a highly engaged community, he has a purpose to be on that community. Similarly, if like-minded individuals understand that this is a place where they belong, it becomes very easy to create engagement and also grow the community. So I think for my community, fostering a warm and welcoming environment is super essential. We do it through memes, we also do it with funny anecdotes, we do with relatable emotional stories, which can create a space where moms feel comfortable sharing the experience, especially now when Meta or Facebook per se has an anonymous button that works wonderfully well in our community, where mothers can open their heart, so only the admins know who they are. So that also gives us a confidence that they have entrusted in community admins. They're okay revealing their names to us and talking to the world about it. Second, I think Chris again pointed out knowledge. But if you look at knowledge from my community perspective, it's more about content. information, resources, they play a very significant role. I personally feel that mothers are constantly seeking advices, they're seeking tips, they're seeking recommendations. They are on a platform to take something. So understand that if we can provide them valuable and trustworthy information, then we become a very critical platform for them. It can be as easy as sharing recipes for picky eaters or for a dinner tonight, or it can be very deep conversations around domestic violence. Anything and everything where the information is reliable, that reliable source of knowledge becomes an indispensable resource. And third, which I think is very important for us, is celebrating women. I think when we celebrate mothers, it becomes a very driving force or a key driver for my community, because mothers often face various societal pressures, even they face a lot of judgments. And when we create a support community where we celebrate each other, like Avantika mentioned my name, I think I am a fan of her. She knows that we've been working in this space for very long, and I think she keeps celebrating me, and I do the same, because that's our way of empowering each other without really hanging on to that term of empowering, because that's the way we embrace our unique parenting, our styles, our informed decisions. So after all this, I think there's nothing more powerful than a community that lifts each other up. So that's the key driver for my community.
I think this is great. And then I believe, belonging to a tribe. So this is something when I'm
That's
also joining any community. So I think that that thing comes from, that is an intrinsic thing which comes out. Okay.
indeed,
So,
indeed, indeed.
yeah. Yeah. Okay. Over to you, Joe. Now, I'm going to flip the question for you, Joe. That uh, when you are joining any community, so of course here we have all the community managers, or people who are actually managing the community and driving the objectives for the members who are joining the community. But when you are joining a community, so what are the drivers for you, and then what exactly you want that these should be my takeaways, because of course even if it's an unpaid membership, it does involve your time, and of course time is money. So what is your perspective on that, Joe?
Yeah, for me, I like to look at three things in no particular order. It's content, sharing, and networking. So I find that content coming out of communities, one is just plentiful. There are so many great things coming out, white papers, research reports, data. It's a really good place to read and consume information that wouldn't be available elsewhere, or that is more finely tuned to what you care about at the moment. So if I'm in a product community, I'm specifically focused there. If I'm an operations or an executive community, you're getting that content right there. And I think that's very key because people are sharing really high quality stuff. The sharing part is great because you get to give back. People ask questions, you get to answer those questions, you get to mentor and advise. You also get to ask your own questions and have people reach out. And it is, what you feel like a safe space, right? You're trying to ask and, correspond as if you're having, a conversation at the water cooler in the older days. And the last one is the networking aspect. I think that people in communities is sort of like the fresh take on LinkedIn, so to speak, right? You are part of the community. You are saying that you are involved in the topic area. You want to share in the topic area. And I find that people are more willing to have the conversation faster. So you could, cold message anyone on LinkedIn, and there's a high chance people write back. I feel with the community is a higher chance, right? It's like knocking on the front door with a friend, and they're saying, "I already know you. Like, come on in, let's have a conversation." So I think it's just a little bit more welcoming, and I think the conversation just happens a little faster.
I think rightly said that even for me, when I'm also joining any community, so for me, the two things which are paramount for me, one is of course on the challenges if I'm facing, and then I feel that it's a safe zone to ask that. And then second is of course how I can build up relationships over there. And to be honest, the kind of mentors I'm able to find over the niche communities, I've never been able to do that on any other platform, to be honest, Joe. Yep. Thank you for sharing that, Joe. And now moving on to you, Om. You are, of course, in a different space altogether, wherein it's all, of course, about edtech. It's all about the education aspect, but for professionals. So, what has been your biggest challenge? Your biggest challenge in driving the engagement? Because, of course, I would say that the professionals are there. They have certain kind of questions with respect to their work life, or probably with respect to a specific course, etc. So how do you handle those ones? Do you have any strategy on the place, or probably it actually just happens based on the you can say, the queries which are actually coming in from the members?
Yeah, so in education, actually, what is easy and challenging both at the same time is there are a lot of use cases, because everyone comes up with a very specific goal that, let's say, I want a job, I want to transition, I want to, build a portfolio, or I just want to add one more skill so I can take more responsibilities. How we go about that is, first, whenever they come into the ecosystem, we try to understand on a personal level what are their goals, and depending on the size of the cohort, that is, we take the majority as the key focus point, and then we attach activities based on what they need more in terms of it. So what becomes one easy is that we know, for at least, let's say, if the duration of that program, or that learning process, let's say 10 weeks, we know what specifically they are going to take away in that 10 weeks. And then when that learning process ends, that's when we add more layers to it. For example, okay, you have learned the skill, let's understand now how to apply to specific companies. Let's understand how to find. What becomes easy for me is, a lot of people who come in are already experts at some of the other things, because these are working professionals. The average age of people that come into our ecosystem are starting from 20 years to 50 years average, and every cohort has, let's say, a 10% of founders, 10% of people who have more than 7 years of experience. So we try to extract the knowledge from these experts, and to impart the new people that are coming into the ecosystem, so that basically creates an ecosystem where people are giving, and then when it ends, they are able to help each other out in some or the other way. So asking small favors becomes an interesting point there, and laying out that framework where people are expected to contribute and not ask first is what becomes important, because we are focusing on one major thing depending on what the class is about. But then how can you still go ahead and take what you want? We make we have these icebreaker sessions. We have something called as accountability partners, because in education, that's a crucial part when we begin. So they are always on a weekly basis in touch with, oh, are you achieving your goal? Oh, are you able to fulfill? Did you learn something new? So every week they are nudging themselves to understand if they're moving forward. So we try to facilitate and provide resources to get there, and then lay down the whole framework so that it looks structured and not just, oh, there's something happening. Challenge in terms of specificity, sometimes people feel a little overwhelmed, because sometimes they feel, oh, a lot of things are happening, what should I focus on? So in education, that is where it becomes a challenge, where people think that they need to spend a lot of time to get a result, but they don't actually. And how do they need to manage their time? We sure make them understand this is how you should do it, but sometimes things happen. We are sometimes busy at work, we miss few updates, and then throughout the end, either they have fulfilled their outcome. Everyone, I think, as per the data I have, everyone who has finished the growth school programs have achieved the outcome that they joined for. But there are a lot of people who are beginners who are trying to still upskill, understand, and go through the process. And that's where we take activity based approach. We don't do one-off sessions, we do basically sprints, 7 to 8 sessions of learning something together. So that's, again, it becomes a ripple effect of the programs coming in. So majorly learning, some people are fast learners, some people are very sometimes slow learners, or for some people it takes a little bit of more time to understand. Because people are at different stages of the learning process, there's always a delta of 15% who need more of hand holding. That's where we bring more help from mentors or more resources that we have. That I think that is where we towards the end we draw more focus at. That is one thing that is challenging. The rest of it, I think, goes decently well if you're able to communicate things better and run it. That would be
Yeah.
my.
Okay, thank you. There is a follow-up question which has been asked for you. I'll come back to that later after we, discuss the talking point with Avantika. So, Avantika, for you, my question is that managing this particular community, right? What is your idea that how virtual events, or probably virtual event technology, was that one of the growth driver to, you can say, put the community onto the growth trajectory? Because of course, one is, I would not, I mean, I don't want to quote COVID, but I would really like to bring out the diverse segment because of course when you're planning to do in person, that's really, you can, it's okay to do that for a particular area, or probably one particular state, etc., etc., or probably if it's that happening at a big scale, like the ones which we were discussing with Chris and Om before. So on, that's on a different scale altogether. But when we are talking about the instant communication, the continuous flow of information, and wherein the need to belong to that community is so high. So do you feel that this particular technology has contributed a lot?
Absolutely, I agree. With and what with or whatever everyone else has said. So I work in the women and mom space and building communities for the Asian parent and Mom's Presso and Baby Chakra, and now at Blue Glam as well. So the one thing that feel that virtual communities have given is that first of all, you are not alone, and people around the world are like you. You have a global, you can, if you say community, a global perspective, and especially in India, for moms and women who in smaller cities, if we talk about the rural vernacular regions, we talk about smaller cities like Indore, Jabalpur, everybody does not have that access or that kind of a situation where they can step out and go out for events or even have coffee with friends. You become their virtual friend, and through all the insights that we have time and again done through our platform of moms, we have found that moms trust other moms, and when that mom is available all the time, like even they trust experts more than they trust moms more than experts. That's what we have found. So I think virtual communities have given that global access, have given this whole feeling of you are not alone, the whole world is with you, and created a safe space. Even though we say that online safety is very important, still virtual communities have given that safe space to women and moms and to other people as well, and that has been the growth driver for them, for sure. And of course with WhatsApp and other technology, now it's every day it's increasing, and we are more and more features and tools that are developing. It's even getting users more answers, more data, and more insights to the questions, and their purpose of being a part of that community.
Yeah, I think rightly said that, Avantika, because when we are looking at a very spread across audience,
Yeah.
technology does come to our rescue. No matter how much we say that they have eroded our lives, but yes, they are our savers at the end of the day as well. Now, moving on to Joe, we have a question for you from the audience. That of course, everyone has their own drivers to join community, and then but sometimes we do feel that the purpose by which we have joined the community, that was not met, or maybe I'm not sure, maybe you can spread some more light on that. Were there any time wherein you have left the community, and I mean, what was the reason for that? Did you come across this particular situation wherein you said that no, I think it's better that I should leave the community, or I should just stop participating in that?
I think that's a really good question. I mean, because there are just so many communities nowadays, right? I mean, you could join dozens of different communities as you get to find what works well for you. So similar to activities that you do in daily life, right? Maybe you're a baseball player and you realize, no, I'd rather play basketball, and you want to switch. So I think that we might, in our original journeys, kind of go across and collect a lot of communities and participate and test them out and see where you kind of jive and what kind of things attract you and you can share. And over time, you might spend more time in one than the other. But being, and it's sort of a benefit and negative of virtual communities, over time, you may not leave the community, you might just not participate. So, as a community manager and admin, you may look at your numbers and think, well, now I have 10, 20, 30,000, but how many are active? So do we keep the non-active folks? Are we showing that level of engagement? Is there a reason? Can we bring them back in? Kind of like, users who are no longer using the software anymore. So I think it's more of a, sometimes you might grow apart. Sometimes the conversation might change. Also could be too busy. Maybe you began with the community early on and you were able to kind of follow Slack, and there was not, tens of thousands of messages a day. And then as things get to a certain point and now the user base is just so high, it's just too much noise and you can't filter it out. So it goes from being a very useful, safe space to being a stream of information and you're overloaded. So I think there could be different reasons why, communities and the members could grow apart over time, and they can also come back later.
Yeah, rightly said so, Joe. Okay, moving on to you, Chris. We have a question for you. That, of course, when we are looking for reviews or advice, when we are, of course, buying such an expensive Martech stack, of course, it comes with a very high price, and then of course there is a certain lock-in period as well. Now, considering the platform, so what are the steps G2 takes in to ensure that the information which is being provided by that particular vendor, that is actually correct, uh, and it is actually providing the right, you can say, value to the vendor? Because of course, when I say the information is provided by the vendor, so here I'm talking about, of course, the reviews which has been collected, and then and again, when they are also getting featured in different reports which are coming at regular intervals by G2, so that the right information goes to the people who are reviewing the product.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. It's I think the key thing is trust. It's making sure that people trust the community, they trust the people leaving reviews, they trust the vendors that are involved in the community. I really love what Avantika was saying, moms trust moms. People buying software trust their peers who have maybe bought that same type of software, want to hear their insights, want to hear the experience that they've had. I've done both B2B and B2C reviews. Thankfully, B2B is a lot easier because it's so much easier to validate the person. You can use LinkedIn. For example, on G2, most people log in using LinkedIn or Google ID, so we're able to identify that they work for a certain company, they're a real person. Most people show their identity on G2 via LinkedIn, so you can actually click through and see what that person does, their role, how big is their company, details like that. So I think that all goes to building that trust. So when you read the review, you can see it's an actual person. It's like, hey, I can see that guy on LinkedIn. He looks just like me. I'm going to trust that individual and the insights that he's giving. It also makes it very much easier to validate the reviews, to be able to know that, hey, the person's a user. We often ask for screenshots to prove that you've used the software or you're using it. Obviously, the role, the company, details like that, because it all goes back to trust. If you don't trust the reviews, if you don't trust the information the vendors are providing, the community's worthless. I mentioned I worked in B2C reviews, incredibly harder because then it's people, it's consumers. And it's harder to validate that they've actually used the product. I used to call it the 5 levels of review grief. So a vendor would come in and say, no, they're not a customer. Yeah, they're really a customer. Yeah, they really didn't buy the product. Yeah, they bought the product. They didn't know how to use the product. Yeah. It just keeps getting down where they're like, yeah, they're a customer. They didn't have a good experience with us, okay? It's just harder, and that's really that trust angle, because you're not 100% sure because you can't identify the person, it's a Gmail address. Obviously, things you can do in B2C reviews to build that trust, but it's a lot harder. But I think anything community review-based, sharing insights, it just comes back to trust. We trust our peers, but we want to make sure that that peer has had that experience that we're trying to learn from. That's the most important piece there.
You rightly said that, Chris. I think that's at the core. I believe for any community, it doesn't matter in which space they are playing. This five-letter word actually holds the entire piece together. So Neha, we have a question for you, because the kind of, you can say, the community which you are handling, and then of course when any, you can say, community owner, they are moving towards making the partnerships work, or probably bringing in the commercial angle, as in, bringing in monetizing their particular channel. So of course, there might be, which I can understand, there might be a big responsibility on your shoulders, because one is the kind of segment which you're holding, but you also have to justify the kind of brands with whom you're also doing the partnership. So how do you do that kind of balance? Because see, I'm a marketer, and then and of course a consumer of the communities as well, as in that I am a part of so many communities. So therein, when I'm seeing that, okay, this is a partnership, okay, so this is something which is in there for the members, but then because it is coming from the community owner, so I can trust that particular brand, and the community owner, they would have done their own checks, and all those kind of stuff, so that it's not too intrusive for the members, Neha. But then I think somehow being a marketer, because now we know that communities is another place wherein we can reach out to our consumers as well, our prospects, our buyers as well. So how to keep that check, that yes, no, yes, no. I'm sure it's going to be really hard for you, right?
Indeed, a very interesting question, Shikha. And as a marketer, I think you understand the pulse of it. See, I come from a corporate background. I've been into sales and marketing space all my life, and now I'm a community builder since 9 years. And I've always seen that the biggest challenge I've been facing during the community building is to drive engagement, or or rather keep that engagement sustained, especially for a community like mine, which is very highly engaged. So continuously feeding them with new content, new ideas, new reasons to be hooked. There, when we have a brand partnership model come in, like for example, like I'll talk about my community. We don't charge mothers even a single rupee to be a platform member, but then our revenue has to come from somewhere, so it comes from the brand. Now when we are talking to brands, when they see a mother's community per se, Avantika would know what I'm talking about. Brands think that it's all about parenting, whereas my community is in a very niche space. Unlike other mother communities, we are a mother communities who do not talk about babies. So it took us little time to convey to our members. Our tagline is "Ek break to banta hai," which is mothers and their me time. We wanted mothers to talk beyond their diaper diaries and talk about them. Eventually, now, Shikha, if you log in on any of my platform, you'll see only those conversations which are around the women who's lost in the journey of motherhood. So now, taking a step forward, when brands used to reach out to me earlier, it was only brands around baby products, baby diapers, and brands who were looking at mothers community as a niche community of just selling their products too. Whereas it became very challenging for me to also being true to my ethos and my vision of not collaborating with someone who's again taking back them to diapers. In fact, some of the very renowned brands of this country who has been funding every community possible is not working with me because of this philosophy. But then we found a hood. We found where we belong to. We are primarily a women community inside a mother's community. So we started collaborating with very strategic brands, as you rightly said, Shikha, that without members feeling very intrusive, without compromising on data selling, without compromising on the privacy of the members we have within us. Like, I think Avantika has been amongst the early mothers who has been with us as a community member. Till date, she would have never got a push message from our community or from our brand. That is how we respect every single member in our community. So I think that has given them the trust and understanding. Also being transparent with them, Shika, that eventually the money has to come in from somewhere because we are running a establishment and the money is coming from XYZ reason. So if there is a brand poll or a survey, please participate. So even exciting them to participate. Like yesterday, we closed a contest, which was with a very senior media house, wherein we gave mothers iPads and mobile phones and all of that. So I now look at a three-pronged approach. Any brand I associate with has to first help my community earn something, either in terms of knowledge or products or anything which makes them happy. The second one is the brand. What exactly are they coming with the objective in mind for? Are they getting the ROIs? Are they really creating the awareness they're coming in for? Are the startups really getting the growth hacking if they're coming for that? And the third avenue is community heads, like people like us who are running the community. What are we getting out of it? So we have been, I think this three-pronged model has been working very well for me in monetization. And I think more or less all the community people who are trying to balance or earn money out of community, which is very important to keep it sustainable, you have to make sure that you look at these three angles. So I think that has been my solace in a very challenging environment.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and probably we'll also have a follow-up conversation on that, Neha, at some point. But yeah, Avantika, you had raised your hand. Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so what Neha was saying, just wanted to add my bit because again, I'm working with brands and partnerships and making sure that it's not too in your face, and too branded because it's a community after all. So I think, for brands, it's very important to understand their thought leadership agenda. Why were they creating that brand in the first place? For example, if we talk about baby products, if we're talking about gold, jewelry, why did they create it? To make that woman or to make that customer feel special. So that's very, very important to make the user the hero of your brand, basically. So how do you have solutions that integrate the community member in such a way that it becomes really beautiful? Like I remember doing this film with a very famous consumer durable brand, which was based on a blog written by a mother Mera Sunday kab aayega? So the blog headline was, when will my Sunday come, to explain in English. And the brand was so moved by it, and there was a film that was made on it, and I think they won an award also. Similarly, the brands that have created communities, like the biggest brand we know that's known for communities, Lego. And how did they build a community? They built because they wanted to create, they wanted to build and foster this whole environment of creating something. So I think making yourself, remembering why you created that brand in the first place, and taking this whole thought leadership approach towards your product, and subtly integrating, involving the community members, making them the hero, co-creating with them is another thing that you can do. Dettol did that, co-created their range with moms. In fact, Baby Chakra also did that, involving them in such a way, having their pictures on their packs, featuring their stories. It becomes like, it makes them feel special, and they feel that, yaar, ye brand hai, but this brand is more than just a brand. It's a brand that given me an identity. So just wanted to add that.
No, I think thank you, Avantika, for pitching in over there, because this is something what I was talking about, being a tribe, because that feeling actually makes any member keep on coming back to that community. So they will not
Yes.
only come back as a consumer of the information, but they will also come back as a contributor. So I have one more
I think
interesting question
ultimately,
for
Shikha, engagement is a two-way street, and that's what everybody has to understand.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay, so with respect of time, Joe, I have one more question for you, and then we'll close with Om. So, Joe, did you ever, got an idea to start a community for your particular organization, for your particular segment? And did you come across that? Did you toggle with that particular idea? I mean, if it did come, so what did you do about that?
We don't have a particular community at the moment, but I do see the value in creating it. I think that, as mentioned with Lego, other products, other concepts, it's really a great way for people to reach out and ask those questions that wouldn't normally be asked. So there's help, there's FAQs, there's conversations. But sometimes you just want to look next to you and say, "Well, you've done it. How'd you do it? What's going on? How is it working? How's the landscape look?" So I think in general, we'll probably see a higher concentration of communities associated with brands as we go forward. And as the process probably gets easier for brands to recognize and control it, I think one of the challenges, especially in a security concept or in a compliance laden business, is the information shared in the community. How do you ensure that you are not being held liable for some of it? How do you handle the risk of the information shared, the potential leaking of private information? So while the desire to have communities could be high, I think some of the back end business conversation around how you will roll that out is probably still a little bit immature in its creation. So we probably need to kind of get that part a little bit more wrapped up. And then once it becomes like a community in a box, so to speak, I think we'll probably see a lot more brands kind of dip their toe into it and try it out and kind of go forward. But it's a great way to build that recognition and to have the conversation on the side that's going on 24/7.
Yes, agree on that, Joe. Okay, so Om, to you with the last question from our audience that as we know that you are into the tech space, and then of course with each particular session there are certain outcomes, and then of course whoever is coming and enrolling with Growth School, they also have a specific objective in their mind. So in majority of the cases, we know that the objective has been met. But did you also ever come across that, hey, I have not achieved my outcome? So, did you face that kind of outcry with any of the members or with any of the specific cohorts?
Yes, I think this is not something that comes up one-off. It keeps on happening because, as I mentioned, the goal is to help majority of the people, and there will be always people who did not meet the outcome, or they are still in the process of finding what their thing is. We do that. This keeps on happening, definitely. And how we have tried to solve that is, we don't do something which is repetitive and does not end. Whatever we try to do has a start and end date. So we try to understand, okay, let's say there are 50 people on a monthly, or in a quarter there are close to 100 people who are trying to do X thing. The people who are, let's say, okay, I came here to get a job, I didn't get it. Okay, there's a bunch of 20-25 people who are here. So then we try to figure out, okay, what are the gaps can we then fill? And can we, one, fill it by being an organization? Second, can we help them by people who have gotten jobs from the community itself to learn firsthand, or can we then bring some brands on board to do that process of hiring or stuff like that. So yeah, we keep on doing that. So that's what happens is there are some fixed initiatives that we keep on doing throughout that learning journey, and there are some interesting initiatives that we keep on doing once a quarter or once in 6 months, as and when the need arises, so that as a brand also we can stand out in the place. So yeah, I think that's a common thing, and I think that's basically what gives us our area of creating more such initiative that can help specific outcomes and not just cater towards a mass.
Okay, and then being a marketer, of course, I can't help without asking about the ROI. So, but then it's gonna be interesting question for you, Om. So, like the way we have the ROIs of our campaigns, etc. So, did you also ever look at this particular module that okay, this is the ROI for the candidate, or this is the ROI for the professional, whether in terms of the learning or whether in terms of scaling up their professional journey, either in having another title or with respect to the salary. So have you I mean, did any of the member did ask that what is my ROI in that?
I think it doesn't happen a lot of times, because so in the time of onboarding itself, we make sure that they have a certain goal that they are able to measure throughout their process. And if that doesn't happen, we have other ways for them to help more personally and then do that. Most probably it doesn't happen, but also one interesting factor to look at here is there is a big chunk of people, that I think close to 35%, who just come to learn a new skill and explore more into their the whatever job roles that they are in. And that is where it becomes very arbitrary. Oh, does ye hua ke nahi hua, does this have I met? So that's a gray area, and I think we try to be more creative there as well. As I mentioned, these small gaps that we keep on identifying gives us more opportunities to do more creative aspects. And I think same is for everyone as well. When we are faced with a new challenge, that's where we put our heads to it and we try to find creative solutions. I think that should happen, because only friction can keep the current going. As I'm a physics student, so comes with Ohm's law. So that is what I can say.
Okay, thank you to all of you. It's been lovely talking to all of you, and then of course exploring uh, the world of community. And I'm sure this is not gonna be the end of this particular topic, because as I was saying, that we're gonna have more multiple sessions with different panelists on this particular subject. Because with communities, we also have AI as a subject, which is being most sought after. So sadly for me as a marketer, ABM is nowhere featuring that, but I'm sure I'm gonna find any headway for ABM in the world of community and AI. And then for you, Om, in case I enroll with Growth School, I'm definitely gonna be, you know, eating your head, and then okay, what is my ROI? How the entire thing, because I mean, of course, that's generally the focus. But yeah, on that cheeky note, thank you to all of you, and I'm sure you had a lovely time the way we had, and of course our audience. We'll keep chatting, and then again, audience, if you have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out to all our panelists on LinkedIn. They will be more than happy to answer. And then, of course, join the communities, join the respective communities which they are running. Please do so. They are amazing ones. I'm sure. In fact, I'm going to be joining Neha's and Avantika one. Om, I did try a couple of times, growth school, but not to the full capacity. G2, of course, being a member for more than a year now. So yes, I can be the proponent for that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you to all of you, and have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Shikha.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.